I just cut these incredible lilacs from the garden this morning. Lilac season is here, and so of course we have to make an arrangement. Hi, welcome to another video. Today we're going to do a beautiful spring arrangement inspired by these amazing lilacs I just cut from my garden. So let's get started. The lilac bush in the garden has been there for almost 20 years. And because I'm in Northern California, it's not very cold in the Bay Area. We don't get these bumper crops of lilacs. But for some reason, we have beautiful lilacs this year, and I cut them to use in this beautiful arrangement I'm going to show you. The other part of my inspiration was to do a beautiful arrangement in this gorgeous antique-inspired container. I love this container. I love the muted color and the built-in pedestal and how it's got this antique look to it. And today we're going to use an assortment of lilac, spring green, and white. We've got beautiful green and lavender hydrangeas, one of my favorite white roses called Polo, an assortment of other lavender and white flowers. So let's get started with some greening in. What I did was go out in the garden and cut some greenery from my Weigela branch. Weigela is a beautiful flowering branch. Kind of reminds me of, the growth habit kind of reminds me of mock orange or Philadelphus. They're right now in bud, and the buds are sort of a plummy pink color. And I actually like the Weigela in bud better than when it's fully blooming, because once it's fully blooming, it tends to, the blossoms are spent really quickly. So I'm just cutting from the Weigela. I'm going to green in lightly around the perimeter. What a luxury it is to use these beautiful greens from the garden. I'm so excited. Every time it's spring and things starting to bloom, I can't wait to go out there and start cutting and using for my arrangements. So Weigela is one of my favorite greens to use. I love the foliage. I love the pale green, the beautiful, vibrant pale green, and it really does kind of remind me of Philadelphus. And as you know, I love using beautiful, novel greenery. So I'm just going to put a little Weigela around the perimeter. It's going to be a pretty large arrangement. And then I'm going to use the green hydrangeas here. These are the pale green hydrangeas. These are not dyed. These are natural that I purchased at the flower market. We also have some lavender hydrangeas. Beautiful. A lot of you ask me what to do about making hydrangeas last longer. There's no real trick to it. Definitely you want to harvest your hydrangeas when it's cool and remove the leaves, as many as the leaves as you can. You could leave a couple on there, but the leaves really fight with the florets for water. So you do want to remove your hydrangea foliage too. I have a lot of hydrangea in my garden that's going to be coming into bloom pretty soon. There are lots of buds, but we don't get our hydrangeas in bloom until late May. And unfortunately, sometimes it gets really hot when it starts blooming, and then they are challenged, let's say. So I've kind of covered the foam with the hydrangeas and some Weigela. There's still a lot of places where we need greenery, but I'm going to kind of leave that for now, because once we fill in the flowers, we can add the greenery in where we need it. Then I'm going to start with the Polo Roses. Look at these incredible roses. This is an Ecuadorian rose called Polo. It's a deceptive rose because when you buy it, the bud is like this tight little egg-shaped bud, but it blooms like this in a couple of days, and I love it. It's been one of my go-to roses for weddings because I love that full blooming rose look, and have it in a white rose that lasts really long. It's just perfect. You know, roses come in and out of fashion, different types of roses, and it's been hard to find the polos. Right now, the popular rose around here to use for weddings is called Playa Blanca, which is another really beautiful white rose that blooms fully, but it's a little bit different. It's a little flatter and more rosette shaped. So I've added the roses sort of in a cluster here. I'm going to add some over here. And generally you want to group in groups of 3 or more. This is another beautifully fully blooming blossom here. Using these polos in here with the hydrangeas really reminds me of doing wedding centerpieces. Now there's another really beautiful material that I discovered recently from my recent trip to the market, is this beautiful mum that's got a spring green center and a lilac, pale icy lilac base. Look at that mum, so gorgeous. I hope you can see that. I'm not a big mum person, but this mum is something else. It's gorgeous. So I'm going to use some in here because it works so well with our color scheme of lavender and pale green. And they come wrapped with a net so that the mums don't open too fully before you need it and shatter. And these are beautiful, spectacular, and great shape. Haven't even started adding in my lilacs. We're going to add that more around the perimeters. Now, lilacs are tricky to keep fresh. So what you need to do is cut your lilacs, of course, early in the morning. And if you bought them, then get them home as soon as possible. And you need to smash the stem of that lilac. Either split it with your cutters or smash it with a hammer and put it in hot water to help it drink up water. They're not the longest lasting flowers, but they are really spectacular. One of my favorite flowers, and I wish you could smell it. It smells amazing. I think I'm going to have an allergy attack after this because I'm a little bit allergic to the lilac, but it's so heavenly, the scent. I wish you can smell it through YouTube. And you know how some flowers smell like the perfume of certain flowers don't smell like the real flower, and some do? Now, the lilacs are very true, I think. Gardenia perfumes to me never smell like a gardenia, but the lilacs right now, I can smell it. It just really smells like the old-fashioned lilac soaps from like Yardley's of London, or other lilac scented products I've bought in the past. So it's the lilac scent is very true in the soaps and perfumes. Really beautiful. Adding another rose here. I want this to read, with a lot of white, not too much of the mums, but I can't resist. They're so gorgeous. Okay. Then I have some really pretty lilac colored or lavender colored Alstroemeria that I'm going to add in. That's sort of like a filler flower. So this is mostly a rounded design that I'm doing, but we are going to add the lilacs in to give it some dimension, but I'm going to add that in last. Beautiful lavender Alstroemeria. They're just perfect right now. Just bloomed, very fresh still, but you can see the colors. And then I have some white freesia. Should we use some white freesia in here? I think that would be beautiful. Because we have so many round kind of mass flowers, it's nice to have a form flower like freesia. That might be too tall. Let me cut it down a little bit. One of my favorite design styles is just to have this mass of beautiful flowers, and then you just add some form flowers like Freesias to make it a little less compact and, you know, too roundy-moundy looking. But it's easy to design when you're going for a more mounded look. You're not worried about keeping a beautiful crescent line, serpentine line, or a vertical line. You're just kind of filling up space with lots of texture and color. Well, this is going to be a very large arrangement, isn't it? Of course, I'm adding more roses. Blowing on the rose to get it open a little bit. Let's add some more freesias. Another one of my favorite spring flowers is Freesia. Right now, it's the perfect time of year for them. So they're super healthy and the stems are really strong. Later in the year, they're probably forced, and so they're just not as beautiful. They're kind of, the stems are kind of skinny and the flowers are not as robust. But right now, they're perfect. And they last a long time. They smell wonderful. And I like the little green tips. Just gorgeous. Let's see, where do we need another one? Maybe this is a little too tall. Cut it down a little. Okay, I think that's really gorgeous. Now we can add in our lilacs. Oh, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now, when you add the lilacs in the floral foam, what I do is I'll cut it halfway, the stem, and then I will kind of break it and tear it and then cut a slit so that you're getting as much surface areas as you can for drinking up water. That is gorgeous. There's nothing like lilacs to set beautiful lines. So I'm going to do this. This one's already split, so I'm going to just split it a little bit higher up to the stem length I need. There we go. Beautiful. Have one in the middle, straight up. Look at that. So gorgeous. Now, they do sell beautiful lilacs in the flower market, but not yet. I was there and they didn't have a lot of lilacs yet. Mine are blooming very early this year. Because sometimes I'll have lilacs and roses blooming together. But right now, the lilacs are going and the roses are not even close. We're having a very cold year in the Bay Area, Northern California. It's not cold in terms of extreme cold this winter. We didn't have a lot of frost, but it has definitely been a very long winter. Even now, we are in the beginning of April, and it is very, very cold still. Look at this insane arrangement with all these beautiful lilacs. One more stem, so I'm going to go ahead and use it. And with lilacs, you want to remove the foliage. The foliage is pretty, but it's not going to last in your arrangement, so you might as well remove it and not worry about it looking bad later on. So I'm splitting the stem before I put it in the foam. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Okay, done with the lilacs. Now I have some of these green Cymbidium orchids I've wired onto picks. I'm trying to see if I should add some in. I think that'd be really beautiful. Now, these are silk Cymbidium orchids, but we've used this often, the fresh Cymbidium orchids. You can buy them at the flower market as a long stem, and then you could take the flowers off individually. And instead of just wiring them directly, what we do is we put it in a water tube and then wire the water tube to a stake. That way you can add it in and it'll have a water source. I think that would be really pretty to add in the cymbidiums. Look at that. Is that gorgeous? I just love that spring green with the lavender. Something about it I think is really charming. That combination. Look at that. Adding some of these beautiful orchids. And these orchids are very nice. They're very realistic. So, hey, I'm not too much of a snob to use it. We'll just add some on the top here next to the lavender colors and the white. This reminds me of a wedding we did years ago where we did white roses, lilacs, and green Cymbidium orchids. One of my favorite weddings. I still remember it all these years later. Okay. So I'm going to step back and take a look to see what we need. I think we do need to fill in with a little bit more greenery. And before I do, I'm going to turn this around and take a look at it and see what we need to change or move. Like I'm going to move this stem of lilac here because I feel like it was kind of sticking up in a weird way. I wanted to cascade a little bit more down off the side of the arrangement. So I'm going to move that a little bit and kind of move it down so it kind of cascades a little better. There we go. That's beautiful. Okay. All right. I also have some beautiful pink jasmine from the garden. Maybe we can use some of this to cascade down the side of the arrangement. What do you think? Pink jasmine is another very beautiful material. And I like the pink jasmine before it blooms because the flowers, once they bloom, you know, they kind of shatter and are spent so quickly. It's prettier to have it in bud, and it doesn't smell so much. Love pink jasmine, but I don't love the smell of it. In full bloom is a little too much for me, especially in the house. So when you're adding cascades like jasmine, ivy, or any kind of greenery cascades, you kind of want to think about where you want to put the placement. You don't want to have it all around, like a stem here, a stem here, a stem here, all around. It looks kind of silly. So I add like maybe 3 stems together in one area and have it kind of cascade down that way. Just cascade from maybe 3 points of your arrangement, but not like, you know, the entire arrangement. Is you don't want to have like a circle of cascade, if that makes sense. And the jasmine, sometimes you just kind of group it together and cut it together so that you can insert like 3 stems at once. So instead of breaking up these bunches and doing a stem here, a stem here, a stem there, I'm adding all the stems together on the perimeter. Just more beautiful, I think. Okay. And the cascades don't have to be all the same size. Some could be longer, some could be a little bit shorter. Make it art. You have to use it artfully. Okay, I have some more of the Weigela that I'm going to cut and add as greenery around the perimeter. Weigela also is a woody stem. Basically, these spring blooming woody stems, you want to kind of make a vertical cut in them so that when you put it in the foam, it'll last longer. I'm just trimming some of the kind of dead wood from this so that we can still use the stem here and not waste it. Wow, this container really can hold a very large arrangement. I keep adding flowers, and I still feel like we need to add more. Good thing I cut so much Weigela from the garden. Here's a stem where you can see the flower. This is what the Weigela flower looks like. It's like a pale pink. It just doesn't last long. That's why I'm hesitant to add it into the arrangement because it'll just start shattering. So I'm just going to pull these guys off right now. Just have the buds. I'm cutting a notch in that stem. Create a Little separation between this lilac and this lavender hydrangea. Keep adding and adding. This is another fun thing about doing this YouTube channel. I could do these extravagant arrangements and not worry about, gee, how much do I have to charge for this? Because when I did events, you know, of course I want to do this all the time, but we don't always have clients that have unlimited budgets, right? So it's very fun to do this channel and design for you because there's no budget. I could just go crazy, make it as beautiful and extravagant as I want it to be. Okay, I'm going to turn this around and see what I'm missing, if I'm happy with the arrangement. I'm very happy with this arrangement. I think it's very beautiful. I'm going to add a rose over here because I feel like it needs a little more white over here. Now, does it drive you guys crazy that I don't add my flowers in evenly, like a rose here, orchid there? I think some of you really want it to be like all perfect, but I actually like it like this, sort of adding things in clusters and however the material speaks to you. I think it's a more sophisticated look. I've had comments though from people who don't love that. They are bothered by the fact that I haven't spaced everything out perfectly and evenly. Well, that's okay. When you're doing your arrangements, you can do that. My arrangement, I want it to be in these sophisticated groups. Like I always say, it's about visual balance, not actual perfect symmetry or balance. Okay. What a beautiful, extravagant arrangement. I really had fun making this arrangement, and we got to showcase these beautiful lilacs. Oh my God, I'm loving these flowers, and what a treat. I hope you enjoyed watching me make this arrangement, and I hope it inspires you to go out and see what's growing in the garden and cut something and use it in your arrangement this week. As always, please like and subscribe and send me a comment to let me know what's blooming in your garden, and I will see you in my next video.